Hello, my name is Farrell D. Moore, and welcome to another episode of Write. And today we're going to be doing part two of an interview with author Jude Matulich-Hall, the author of the Chronicles of Eversteam.
Or
Right?
the Eversteam Chronicles.
Yes, I'm sorry, the Eversteam
Oh,
Chronicles.
that's okay.
And
We
how
just
you,
said it too.
by the way, how you doing, Jude?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. How are you,
Great.
Rick?
Well, what inspired you to write this book? I mean,
Funnily enough, it was a dream. I woke up from I had a very vivid, bizarre dream. This was like 6 years ago, and that's what started it. It was the dream was just so surreal and weird and funny, and that I woke up from it and I started telling my husband. He's like, "You got to write this down." So I started writing it, and 4 years later, I had the Eversteam Chronicles.
wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although it was funny because I recently found my notes from the dream, and I actually ended up only using about half of the notes. The other stuff,
Really?
it's going to come out in other stories.
How thick was your notes for that?
Oh, it was like a paragraph. That was all.
Paragraph?
Yeah.
God, yes.
Just a paragraph. Yeah. A 300 and what is it, 70-page book out of a paragraph.
That's exceptional. That's really exceptional. Now, what exactly is your target market? I mean, what's your age range for target market that you wrote the book for?
So, my goal was definitely older readers. So not kids. It's
Right?
definitely not YA because there are some gruesome scenes in it.
Right?
The people are traveling through hell. So I think, and my beta readers ranged from 30 to 70. So I know that's a wide range, but the people that have enjoyed the book have tended to be of all different ages. So I would just mainly say adults that are into magical
Realism?
realism,
Yep.
um, that's grounded, not too flighty and not too out there, but grounded, that wants a good story. But it's not strict fantasy either, though. So people that want to work their brain a little bit, that enjoy uh, uh, older literature, Dante's Inferno, for instance. Dante Alighieri, Tolkien. Yeah, I think it's a.
How would you categorize your book? Would you call it fantasy or dark fantasy or steampunk?
I call it dark fantasy with a steampunk flavor. It's
Right.
it's the steampunk is pretty light compared to other steampunk writers, and I've watched some steampunk things on YouTube and stuff. There's hot, just like their fantasy. There's high fantasy, epic
Right?
fantasy, and so dark fantasy, but light on the steampunk. It's not super duper heavy steampunk. It's not high steampunk, for instance.
Right.
There's there's clockwork creatures. There's an alternate reality. There's flying ships. Pirates. It's a whole mix of. So
Right.
it's comfortable for me to just say dark fantasy.
All right. Well, can you tell me a little bit about the story and its characters? And please,
Sure.
as long as you want. I mean, honestly, because it's a big book. It's 370 pages.
Yeah, it's a
But
good
yeah,
size. So it starts out, my main character is a female detective about the turn of the 20th century. So we're talking,
right?
eight, right at 1900s. Although I range the science and the technology ranges from 1880 to about 1920. And so, and she's struggling. She's lost family members. Um, at that time, the police force isn't taking her seriously. She's super struggling business wise and emotionally wise, and she has an accident. She hits her head and she starts having these weird visions. And her grandfather was an inventor, and so she has like a clockwork dog and some goggles that reveal lost things, but nothing's working. None of this stuff is working.
Right.
And the universe's energy source is mostly sparks. And
Now explain to the audience what sparks are.
so sparks, it's not SPARKS, it's SPAE, the AE that's squished together, that no
Right.
matter how much I rack my brain, I can't remember what that's called. I actually should have looked it up. But it's SPAE, squished together, RKS. And it's an energy source. And so it's basically an element. It's an element
Right.
that with sound resonance activates. So you have to find
With sound
people have
resonance.
to find the sound resonance of the spark to activate it. And then natural sources keep it, basically charge it. And then they power machines and things. At the same time, it's at the same time, there's still coal being used. There's still mining being done. So there's an environmental aspect to the story as well, because the sparks represent a renewable resource, whereas all these other things are not renewable.
Right.
And the earth is suffering for it. And I won't go too far into it, but because the earth is weakened from wars over the power, people wanting power and things, these events are able to take place. The bad guy is able to start doing things that start causing issues, and heaven and hell start to switch places. And I can give this much away. Angels start doing bad things, and to create balance, demons start doing good things, because the ultimate law of the universe is that there must be balance. Right. And the demons, knowing there must be balance, start doing good things to counter the bad, and therefore heaven and hell start to switch places, which is quite catastrophic. And my main character and a group of people that she joins forces with travel through hell to find out what the hell is going on.
Now, tell me something in the audience, a little bit about your characters. Kind of sketch them out, if you will.
Sure, yeah. So Penelope Vetterer O'Connell is a private detective, and she meets up with Sergeant Heathrow Jennings, who is a sergeant of the Eversteam police force. And he believes in everything. He's into magic. He's into every religion possible. He's constantly out searching outside of himself for answers. Whereas Penelope, she's cut all that stuff off. She's like, life sucks. Life is hard and magic doesn't exist. And so you got these two really opposite people, but they come together because he's the only one that believes that she's having visions and believes in all that magic that's starting to pour into this world. And she kind of gets pulled along, and he's able to use the goggles, whereas because she's cut everything off, the goggles don't work for her, but they work for him. And then they run into a reincarnated demon and a Buddhist monk that, through strange events, get transported from way up in the Himalayas down to Eversteam.
Right.
And they travel together. Each one has a key. Each one has a different aspect that is important to the story, because that without one of the aspects, it wouldn't work, because of the science, the science, magic, technology that creates the sparks. There's just all these different aspects. So I needed to have that balance of, the spiritual, the magical, the bizarre, but also the person that is very logical, but the person that can also think beyond all of the mundane logical things.
Now, what did you learn when writing this book? I mean, what lessons were there for you?
You mean like lessons for like the heart, or lessons for the head?
Both.
Both. I'm a meditator, and I really believe in practicing mindfulness. I've been a yoga teacher and meditation teacher for, oh gosh, 20 years,
Right.
18 years, something like that. And but I've been meditating since I was about 12 years old. So it's been a big part of my life. And this, bringing the Buddhist monk into the story gave me a chance to share teachings that I've experienced that really helped me with my life. So I was able to bring that aspect of and that idea of practicing mindfulness in everyday things.
Good.
And in the face of in the face of adversity, just being present and being kind. I mean, I think
In the face of
ultimately,
chaos, so to speak.
yeah. So, the theme, if I were to choose a theme, it would definitely be the theme of my story is compassion. So, yeah.
Good.
Different people coming together, having difficult times. I mean, these people go through, they're going through the underworld, but they actually, on many levels, physical, mental, emotional, they go through just some stuff. And that aspect just keeps coming in. Mindfulness and compassion working together, staying kind, even if you're having a hard time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what surprised you most about the book when you were writing it?
Surprised me.
Yeah. What
Oh,
surprised you?
goodness. It was very exciting. I just when I got the idea for like the sparks and the way the sparks worked, that sticks out most in my mind is when it was just like I think the magical element of it and the way the pieces puzzled themselves together.
Right.
It was just very exciting. I don't know about surprising. I was pretty surprised I was able to retain so much stuff in my
Yep.
head at once and still get
Well,
it
it
out.
was surprising that you had so much excitement going on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It really was.
It was so amazing the way, and I'd get stuck with something, and the sparks was something I got stuck with because there's these different aspects of the sparks. They're not just power sources. There's more to them than that, because there is a magical aspect and just the way. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, the surprise was because it got big. Like the story got kind of broad. And
Right.
the way it just came back together, all these
The
characters
depth of the
coming.
story surprised you too, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The depth of the story surprised you too.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the where these characters came from and just it was awesome.
Do you miss the characters now that you're not writing them?
I do. I think about them often.
Yep.
But they're on hold right now, but I will come back to them. So, even though I'm
Well,
often I'll get these ideas. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get that written
another
down,
question on that. What do you think happened to the characters after your book ended? Is there a sequel in the works?
There is. Yeah. It's going to be a while for the sequel because I'm actually writing a prequel right now that the prequel is actually ending up to be longer than anticipated. So the prequel was going to be one book, but it's huge and I've only gotten halfway through. It's the events that lead up to what is happening in the Eversteam Chronicles. And I felt it was really important to get that established before continuing with the rest of Penelope and the other story. I really needed to.
It really
Yeah.
does.
So it might be a year or two. Let's see, 2 years until
Right.
I get back to it. I've got one more book to write. The one I'm finishing up right now, I've got a second one to write to bring it all together because the pirates in the Eversteam Chronicles actually lived 300 years before the Eversteam Chronicles, but because of magic and time travel, they do end up meeting Penelope and Heathrow and Dorje and Patch in the underworld. And so I have to get the pirates to that point. And so these two books, but it's also, It's about unreality, which is mentioned in the Eversteam Chronicles, which is the alternate universe, and it's all about unreality and how the gateways that open that allow people to travel from one place to the other.
Right.
And it's an epic story. I mean,
Well,
when you think of what epic is, this is epic.
an epic, right?
It's about two worlds colliding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, like most of your readers, I can't wait to see what happens to the people. And we conclude today's episode, and tune in for our next episode, episode 3, with Jude Matulich-Hall, author. And until then, namaste, Jude.
Thank you. Namaste.